The Galactic Council sent an execution fleet. It never returned. The last transmission cut off mid-scream. 1,000 warships erased in silence. No debris. No escape pods. No wreckage to salvage or study. Just the void where the fleet had been. High Chancellor Vorex stood motionless, one claw tapping the edge of his obsidian desk. The war table before him pulsed with tactical projections. Every battle scenario ended the same way. Annihilation. "They are not dead," hissed strategist Jektuan, his bioluminescent eyes narrowing. "Not in any way we understand." Across the command chamber, warlords and high-ranking officials shifted uneasily. They were the architects of extinction, rulers of 1,000 conquered systems. They had reduced empires to dust. But this was different. "The Terrans did something," growled Admiral Xephos, his voice thick with unease. "No species has ever returned fire against the Council and won. They should be ash." A single beacon pulsed on the holographic display. Deep space. Unclaimed territory. A dead signal, repeating over and over. COMEA-NDSEE. No coordinates. No source. Just the call. Vorex exhaled slowly. "Send a recon fleet. 10 ships. Stealth class." Silence. No one moved. Then Jektuan spoke, his voice quieter than before. "High Chancellor, we sent 3. None returned." Vorex's claws dug into the table. The Council had sentenced Terra to oblivion. It had not worked, and now the silence was watching them back. The chamber was too quiet. Not the silence of contemplation, but of something primal dread. High Chancellor Vorex felt it coil around his mind like a strangling vine, pulling at the edges of his certainty. The Galactic Council had ruled for millennia unchallenged, absolute. The Terrans had been outnumbered, outgunned, outmaneuvered. Their survival had been an impossibility. And yet, Admiral Xephos clenched a fist, his plated knuckles grinding. "We're blind. 3 recon fleets gone. No distress calls, no wreckage. Just that signal mocking us." His mandibles clicked in agitation. "We need answers, not caution." Strategist Jektuan did not look up. His eyes remained locked on the war table, at the lone, pulsing message, COMEA-NDSAE. His bioluminescent skin dimmed, his mind working through probabilities, each worse than the last. If they had new weapons, we would have seen something. Readings. Energy signatures. Ghost echoes. There was nothing. No record of battle. No sign of struggle. His voice wavered. They weren't destroyed. They were taken. The words unsettled Vorex in a way he refused to show. The last time anything had taken a fleet, it had been before recorded history, before the Council's rise, before any of them. But that was legend, whispered myths of a time when something darker had ruled the stars. "We will not be paralyzed by fear," Vorex said, voice sharp, final. "This is an escalation. If Terra has found something, unlocked something, become something, we will match it." His claws tapped the obsidian desk, triggering a deep, resonant chime. "Summon the Apex Lords. Prepare the Eclipse Armada. If brute force is not enough, we will erase them another way." Jektuan hesitated. "And if this isn't war?" Vorex's gaze was cold, unyielding. "Then it is something worse." The war table flickered. The COMEA-NDSEE signal changed. New words bled across the display, forming with slow, deliberate intent. WESAE, YU. Every light in the chamber died. The chamber plunged into darkness. A void more than the absence of light, something deeper. The war table flickered, struggling against an unseen force. High Chancellor Vorex felt his second heart hammer against his ribs, his mind screaming against the unknown. A low pulse crawled through the walls, vibrating through the floor, a sound not meant for ears. Then, the signal changed again. Uarenotincontrol. Admiral Xephos reached for his sidearm. Jektuan stood frozen, his bioluminescence flickering in erratic pulses patterns not his own. He was trying to speak, but the words wouldn't form. Vorax's claws tightened. Who else is receiving this? Silence. No response. But he knew the truth. Every ship, every station, every world in the Council's domain had just seen it. Jektuan finally gasped out. This isn't transmission corruption. It's rewriting the system as it speaks. His breath came sharp, uneven. We never lost the fleets. They were rewritten. Sci-fi snapped his mandibles, his rage masking something colder beneath. Then we destroy it. We find where this signal is broadcasting from, and we burn it out. A new voice cut through the dark. You don't understand what you're fighting. The chamber snapped back to life, emergency lights humming on, the war table stabilizing. A shadow stood at the far end of the room, its presence impossible. Counselor Vela. She had not been in the chamber before. She had not entered. Her armor was battered, her eyes hollow. She stepped forward, slow, deliberate. They told us Terra was dying, she whispered, that the Council's strike would erase them in a single cycle. Her voice cracked. They told us we had won. Vorax felt the weight in her words, and she looked up. The irises of her eyes were shifting, changing color, spiraling like event horizons. We were never the ones hunting them. Then the war tables screamed. Red alarms. Incoming warp signatures. Not Council ships. Not recon fleets. Something else. The war table convulsed, its holographic surface fracturing into a storm of corrupted data. Vorax took a step back, his instincts screaming wrong. Across the display, fleet identifiers warped into nonsense symbols that didn't belong, glyphs that defied translation. The incoming signatures weren't just unknown. They weren't meant to exist. Sci-fi bared his fangs. Weapons to full. If they enter firing range, we turn them to debris. But Vela didn't move. She stood motionless, staring past them, past the war table, past the chamber itself. They're already here, she whispered. The room buckled. The walls breathed. Every panel, every interface, every strand of reinforced alloy shifted, pulsed, awakened. Vorax staggered, his claws scraping against the metal floor, but it wasn't metal anymore. It was something else. Something alive. Jektuan collapsed, his bioluminescence flaring wildly. His translator screamed. Not words, distress, warning, recognition. The war table flickered one last time. The corrupted fleet markers aligned, formed something coherent. A symbol. Human. A deep, droning tone reverberated through the chamber. Not an alarm. Not interference. Speech. Vela turned to Vorax. Her expression was no longer fear. Not grief. Not even despair. Do you see now? Her voice was calm. Empty. We never sent the execution fleet. We only thought we did. A cold weight settled in Vorax's gut. Explain. Vela exhaled, and when she spoke again, the words didn't feel like hers. We are the fleet. The war table collapsed into raw static. The walls stretched. And beyond the chamber, beyond the flagship, beyond the dying embers of the Galactic Council's dominion, the ships began to move.